In one of my previous videos, I turned this McDonald's photo into realistic 3D model in Blender, which unexpectedly got an amazing feedback, and I wanna say thank you for the incredible response to that video. Now, because of that, I'm gonna be showing you the process of another lazy way to build buildings in Blender, and some tips that I have learned creating this another realistic 3D render. We're gonna use fspy program and fspy to Blender add-on to achieve this. So let's dive into it. Now that the fspy application is already open, I'm gonna use it to match an image's perspective to a camera setting. This process is known as camera matching, and it helps determine the proper camera focal length, which makes modeling easier. The green line represents the y-axis, which is the forward and backward axis in the Blender, and the red line represents the x-axis, which is the left and right axis. As you can see in the vanishing point axis option, the goal is to simply align those axes on the picture. You can press Shift on the keyboard to zoom in. Locations with varying depths are the best place to put the lines. Now, using this cursor, you may verify whether the image's perspective is aligned appropriately. I'm going to position the cursor here. I'm going to change the x-axis into -x, so that the z-axis will point upward, and when we bring this to Blender, that will be the origin point. Simply save the file and open it in Blender. Let's activate the screencast key so that you can see the key that I'm pressing. Before we continue, make sure you've already enabled the fspy add-on, which you can download and install on Blender from the fspy website. Then you just go to File, Import, fspy, then it will bring up the camera into the scene with the image as background. I'm gonna start a new window here on the right. And I'm going to use the left window as a guide. I will now add a cube. On Edit mode, align it to the image to create the basic model of the building by simply doing some extrusions. Let's add another cube for this paying booth here. Do some extrusions, and align it to the image. Now, I'm going to add a plane, extrude it to align on the image of this big building at the back. Once we already have the basic shape of the building, let's now apply a new material. Go to Shading Workspace. Go to Material Property, New, Add Image Texture. Connect to Principled BSDF, then let's use our image. You can see that the texture here is kind of distorted. I'm gonna fix it by simply adding some modifiers. Add Subdivision Surface Modifier, set it to Simple. Then set the viewport and render into 5, add UV Project Modifier, let's set this to UV Map, then the object set it to fspy Camera. Now, it looks good but the texture is still off the mesh a bit. I'm gonna fix it by simply putting the dimensions of the image to the aspect ratio of UV Project Modifier. In here, we have 1605 by 1078. Just gonna put it in here. Now, you can see the image now lines up in the mesh correctly. Cool. Now that we already have the basic structure of the building with materials applied, we can now work on the smaller details of the image. Apply the UV Project Modifier, so that we can work on the UV mapping texture without issues. Now, go to Edit mode. On the UV editor, adjust the edge loops to refine the alignment of the image textures. Select this building at the back. On Edit mode, fix its texture by adjusting the edge loops. On Edit mode, select the face of the roof of this paying booth here, adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. You can press U, then Cube Projection, to reset the edge loops before making adjustment on the UV map. On Edit mode, start adding edge loops using Ctrl-R, add them anywhere where there are edges. I recommend spend more time on the window frame, door frames, or any part of the image with high contrast areas. On this area, press C, select the faces. Press U, then Cube Projection, adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. In here, you can see that the window texture on the center is off, so let's fix that. Now, select the faces here at the center. Press U, Cube Projection, then adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. Next, select these faces here, then extrude it in. Select the part of the mesh like this with stretched textures. Press U, Cube Projection, adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. Now, select the corner edge here, Ctrl B, then scroll up to bevel. On edit mode, you can adjust the individual edge loops, but before you do that, make sure correct UV is activated. To avoid texture distortion issues, select the window face here, press K, to use the knife tool. Then add edge loop across here, press U, cube projection, then adjust edge loops to hide the iron pole. Select the window pane, then extrude it in. On the other side, select the faces on the center, extrude it in. Let's fix the stretched textures here. Select this corner edge loop, Ctrl B, then scroll up to bevel. Then also do it on the other side, using the knife tool. Add edge loop here. Press U, cube projection, then adjust edge loops to hide the iron pole. Select the window pane. Then extrude it in. Then let's fix the stretched textures here on the sides, using the knife tool. Add edge loop here. On vertex select, adjust individual points here to align it to the edges of the building. Now, select the edge loop below, move it inside by pressing G, then adjust some individual points. Of course, we have to do this also on the other side. Now, let's fix the concrete texture here by simply adjusting the edge loops, then continue and repeat the process on the others. Select and adjust the edge loops to align it to the window frames and the edges of the building. Once already aligned, I'm gonna select these faces right here. Then extrude it out. This will be our roofing canopy. I'm gonna fix these stretched textures. Select the faces with stretched textures. Press U, cube projection. Adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. I'm gonna select these faces right here, where the store logo is located. Press Shift D to duplicate. Move forward a bit. Press P. Then separate by selection. Press K to use the knife tool. Then cut out the logo. Then repeat the process to the remaining letters. Once done cutting out the logo and letters, select the mesh background. Press X on the keyboard, then delete faces. This will now isolate the logo and letters from their mesh. On edit mode, extrude the logo and letters. I'm gonna fix these stretched textures on the logo, then repeat the process on the letters. Next, on edit mode, add a cylinder and line up on these small iron bars. Duplicate it to cover the other iron bar. Use the knife tool to create an edge loops here on the wall, then extrude. Then on the other side as well. Now, select the iron bar objects. Press U, cube projection. Adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. Next, I'm gonna hide the logo. On UV editor, select these faces here. Adjust the edge loops to hide the printed logo and letter textures. Then repeat the process on the others. Once done, we can now reveal the logo. Select the faces here. Then extrude it in. Now, I'm gonna remove the bushes here below. Select the window panes here in front, rotate it, change the rotation into Y-axis, then change the value into 0, align it into the window panes. Alright, using the knife tool, create an edge loop here below the window pane. Now, select face, then adjust the edge loops to get rid of the bushes, then repeat on the other side. Select these faces here on the doors, extrude it in. This face here above, extrude it in. Then, extrude these window glass panes here in front. Select the faces here on the corner, extrude it out. Then fix the stretched textures here, below the window glass panes. Let's replace the bushes with the concrete. Simply adjust the edge loops position on the UV editor, and place it on the concrete. Next, let's fix the textures of these window frames here. Select the faces. Press U, cube projection. Adjust the edge loops to fix the textures. Just gonna repeat the process on the other frames. Now, let's also fix the textures of these brick here by hiding the bushes. Select the faces, rotate it, change the rotation into Y-axis, then change the value into 180, then align it into the brick. Then simply repeat the process on the other side. Select the faces of these bricks. then extrude them out. Continue extruding the areas with contrast to add depth and details. And also continue refining the textures by using texture projection mapping. Now, create edge loops on this pane booth on Windows, Frames and Edges through Knife tool. Select the windows, then extrude them in. Now, let's fix the textures of this pane booth here. Select the face. Press U. Cube projection. Adjust the edge loops to fix the textures, add edge loops, then extrude the window inside. Now, continue fixing the textures by using texture projection. Once done, we can now add some glass materials on windows and doors. On Shader Editor, go to Material Properties. Duplicate the building material, then hit this icon to create an independent copy of the same material. Rename this into glass, then let's create a glass texture by adding some material nodes. Let's add a transparent and glass BSDF, then mix shader here. Duplicate the mix shader by pressing Shift D. Connect this principled BSDF to mix shader, then connect mix shader to material output. Connect the transparent and glass BSDF to mix shader, then mix shader to mix shader. Now, on edit mode, select the part of the mesh where you want to apply glass texture. Select the glass material, then assign it to the selected part of the mesh. As you can see, the glass texture is now already applied to the storefront. Now, let's add a Musgrave texture, then bump node. Connect the Musgrave height to bump height, then normal to glass normal. This will create some irregularities on the glass texture. Let's pull down the bumped strength of the glass a bit. Next, I'm gonna select the other windows which I want to put glass textures, then on face select mode, assign the glass texture. Next, let us add a bump to our basic model in order to enhance the realism of the 3D model. On Shader Editor, select the base model, go to Material Properties. Duplicate the building material, then hit this icon to create an independent copy of the same material. I'm gonna rename this into bump. Duplicate our image texture node, connect to roughness, color ramp, put it in between principled BSDF and duplicate image texture. Select some faces, then assign. As you can see, the bump texture is already applied. You can adjust the color ramp slider to play with the roughness of the object. Add a bump node, connect duplicate image texture to bump height, then normal to normal. Now, just play with the bump strength to change the bump intensity. Next, select the building facade, then assign the bump material. I'll just repeat the process on the other parts of the image. Now, I'm going to add a concrete material. On Shader Editor, go to Material Properties. Duplicate the bump material, then hit this icon to create an independent copy of the same material. Rename the bump into concrete. Now, let's replace our duplicate image texture footage into a concrete texture. Then in edit mode simply assign the concrete texture into the parts of your choice. Next, I'll just repeat the process on the other parts of the image. You can also have another concrete material with light roughness or bump by duplicating the concrete material and create independent copy of it. Then simply apply on the parts of your choice. Continue applying the bump texture to the object which you believe should have a concrete texture. Now, to refine the concrete textures here on the corners, I'm gonna select this concrete pillar here, press U, cube projection, press R to rotate. Then change the rotation into Y-axis, then change the value into 180. Align it into the concrete pillar here, then I'll just gonna repeat the process on the other pillars. Next, let's create an iron bar texture. To do that, on Shader Editor, go to Material Properties. Duplicate the building material, then hit this icon to create an independent copy of the same material. Rename it into iron. Now, on edit mode, assign the iron material, increase the metallic value and decrease the roughness. This will now apply the iron texture to the iron bar. Next, I'll just repeat the process on the other parts which should have the iron textures. Now, to make the scene more realistic, I'll add some natural lighting. To do that, let's add HDRI. I'm using a free HDRI add-on, which is easy HDRI add-on, link is in the description. I'm gonna select a city environment, go into render view, render engine to cycles, GPU compute, then make the background solid color black. Now, we're gonna add some light on this window glasses during nighttime store hours. Before we do that, let's enable the scene world. Now, on shader editor, go to material properties. Duplicate the glass material, then hit this icon to create an independent copy of the glass material, rename it into emission. Let's duplicate this image texture here, add color ramp, duplicate color ramp, add math node here, then add hue saturation, connect this image texture to color ramp and hue saturation, color ramp to math node. Connect the hue saturation node to emission color, then math node to emission strength. Change this math node into multiply, color ramp to glass BSDF roughness. Then color ramp to principled BSDF roughness. This group here on the bottom is what makes our emission material. Now, select the parts where you want to put the emission texture. With the emission material selected, hit assign. To test the emission texture we have applied, let's reduce the HDRI strength into 0.02 to make a night scene. As you can see, our store glass now glows and emits summer light. You can play with the value of math node to control the strength of the lights, color ramp slider, to control the distribution of lights, to change the color of lights. You can tweak the value of hue saturation node here. You can also play with the slider of this first color ramp to tweak the glass roughness. Now, I'm gonna select the other parts which I want to have an emission material. Then hit assign. Then tweak the value of these nodes to change the look of the lights. Now, let's also add some lights on the store logo. Let's select the logo, hit the plus icon. Then add the emission material. On edit mode, press A to select all the logo, then hit assign. This now applies the emission texture to the logo. Alright, perfect. Simply tweak the intensity of the emission according to your liking. Hope you guys learned something from this video. Thank you guys for watching, see you.